Order, please. I will now allow an opportunity for the rendering of the national anthem by Mr. Garth Dalport. Mr. Dalport. I suspect Mr. Dalport is not. Sorry. All right.
Let's sing it ourselves.
Order, please.
Let's sing it ourselves. Ngosi
Kindly.
sikeleli Afrika, malupahanisu honowayo, Israeli tandazo yetu, ngosi sikelela tina lusapho wayo, murena buluka sichaba sa Yesu, ufelice litwale maswenye usibuluke, sichaba sa Yesu, sichaba sa South Africa, South Africa. Waar die kransen antwoord geven, zoals de world to come together, and united we shall stand. Let us live and strive for freedom in South Order, please, members. May you remain standing for the prayer. Almighty God, we you have called us to govern this province, we ask your help to make decisions and laws that will be just and will promote the interests of the people. Almagtige God, ons bid dat u gedurende ons vergaderings ons die nodige wysheid sal gee en ons motiewe suiwer sal hou, en dat u ons sal help om ons tekortkominge te oorkom en al ons besluite aan u op te dra. Sikalele lezwi letu nabantu balo, umisili ukulungu kwipondo letu. Kosi sikalela i Afrika, kina bantwana bayo, kokelo in kokeli zayo, iniki ukolo i Afrika. All this we beg in your holy name. Amen. You may be seated. Good morning, honourable members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a privilege and a pleasure for me to welcome you to this very auspicious occasion today, that of the State of the Province Address. I would like to draw the attention of the guests in the gallery to the fact that you need to put your cell phones on silent, no flash photography, and that you are not allowed to participate in the proceedings of the session. That includes no heckling, no clapping, no cheering, no interjections. We are pleased to have you with us, but please kindly abide by the rules as they are posted on the reverse of your tickets and in the gallery above you. I have to call you all to order to announce that due to the resignation of Mr. Dan Plato, a vacancy occurred in the representation of the Democratic Alliance in the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. This vacancy has since been filled by the nomination of Mr. Regan I. Allen with effect from the 11th of December 2018. Mr. Regan Allen was sworn in the Speaker's Chambers on the 11th of December 2018. We welcome the Honourable Member. Order, please. Order, please, Honourable Dugmore. May we proceed? I have to announce that in terms of Rule 14 of the Standing Rules today, 15th February 2019 at 10:30 has been determined as the date and time for the Premier's State of the Province address. This sitting is meant specifically for the purpose of affording the Premier an opportunity to deliver the State of the Province address. On this occasion, no business other than the address by the Premier is entertained. I also wish to remind members that the debate on the address will take place on the 19th of February, where members will have an opportunity to fully engage and debate the Premier's address. On the 21st of February, the Premier will reply to the debate. I also want to take this opportunity to welcome our esteemed guest to the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. I now afford the Honourable the Premier, Premier Helen Zille, the opportunity to address the House. Premier.
Fellow citizens of the Western Cape, Honourable Madam Speaker, Honourable members of the Provincial Cabinet, Honourable Mayor of Cape Town, Honourable Leader of the Opposition, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Honourable Leaders of political parties, members of the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces, Honourable members of the Provincial Legislature, Director General of the Western Cape and all heads of provincial departments, leaders of local government present today, religious leaders, community leaders, colleagues, friends and family. Speaker, this is my final State of the Province address, and I am deeply grateful for the opportunity we have had together to serve our citizens over 2 stable terms in office. I received some lovely messages wishing me well for this big occasion, for which I thank you all. I quote from one of them, with apologies to the poet Robert Frost. 10 years ago, voters stood before 2 roads that diverged in a yellow wood. Those in the Western Cape chose the road less travelled by, and it has made all the difference. My speech today will explain why. Since May 2009, together with many partners, the Western Cape Government has made progress towards our long-term vision of a highly skilled, innovation-driven, resource-efficient, connected, high-opportunity society for all. Our first term was dedicated to establishing and embedding sound systems to secure good governance. This created the foundation for our second term, during which we have gone further, focusing on our game-changing interventions that over time will make a significant positive impact on people's lives. We also pioneered a new delivery methodology to turn strategy into reality in a focused and effective way, using data never before used to measure impact. I hope it has been sufficiently embedded to leave a lasting legacy. Speaker, to put it plainly, South Africa's greatest problem is unemployment. That is why our top priority has been to create an environment that encourages job creation through investment and growth, the only sustainable way of beating poverty. We have raised the quality of basic education and laid the foundation for the digital future our children will face. We have supported land reform like no other province, and we have made more South Africans homeowners through title deeds and refined game-changing models for well-located housing opportunities, which we know
Order, please.
can be replicated countrywide. As a caring government, we have expanded social services to the disabled, our youth, the
Order,
elderly,
please.
and those in need of protection. Those who have suffered from substance abuse we have treated those by substance abuse
Premier,
treatment and counselling.
kindly take your seat, please. Honourable members, interjections are allowed, but I am not going to allow a running commentary. Similarly, if everyone interjects at the same time, it drowns out the Premier. So kindly limit your interjections so that we don't have a running diatribe. I am speaking to all honourable members. Order, please. Honourable Magaka, compose yourself. Compose yourself. Honourable Lecker, you have been chirping, and I will not hesitate to call you to order if you are out of order. So please allow the Premier to proceed. You may proceed, Premier.
Speaker, we continue to build the partnerships necessary to foster safer communities within our limited oversight mandate and to hold the South African Police Service and the national government accountable for their policing mandate. The progress we are making is cause for optimism for every South African. There is a way forward for South Africa. I would like to thank the Director General, my Cabinet and caucus colleagues, heads of department, the Delivery Support Unit, the Premier's Office, my department, and all of the 84,000 employees who go the extra mile to serve the public every day. No words can express the debt of gratitude that every citizen of this province owes you. The government is particularly grateful for those partners in other spheres of government, civil society, business and labour, disaster management services, universities, the diplomatic corps, families, not least of all our own, individuals and friends worldwide who have contributed to achieving our objectives. Speaker, may I just ask you, the lighting in this chamber is very difficult for me to read the auto cue. So may I ask that if I can just have the written version of my speech, because I'm battling to read the auto cue, so I would prefer it this way. Thank you very much. Speaker.
Honourable Chacha, the Premier has printed the document on her own paper. Excuse me. You may proceed, Premier.
A whole-of-society approach is essential to make our province better together. Creating conditions for sustained progress towards prosperity for all requires three preconditions: the rule of law, a culture of accountability in which all members of society take their responsibilities seriously, and a capable state that undertakes its duties efficiently, honestly, and cost-effectively. Make no mistake, Speaker, good governance makes a difference to citizens, whether they are
Premier,
aware
I'm
of
sorry
it
to
or
interrupt
not.
you. Kindly take your seat, please. Member Nkondlo, Member Diana, and Member Lecker. This is a serious occasion that doesn't require giggling that is so loud that it interrupts proceedings. It is my duty to maintain order in terms of Rule 41. Should you persist, I will move to Rule 44. So kindly manage yourself with dignity in terms of your role as a public rep. Thank you. You may proceed, Premier. There is a... Honourable Magaka, may I address you? You sit there and you shout at me. I am not going to allow you to shout at me. You rise on a point of order and you address me. So manage yourself, otherwise you will run the risk of being sent out for being disorderly. And it might not be a class, it is an auspicious occasion that requires dignity and respect. That is all I am asking. Dignity and respect.
Speaker, with due respect,
Yes.
I think, Speaker, you are the person who is disruptive here. People are just doing their job. Our job here is to do what we are doing. You know,
Honourable
it's part of
Magaka.
our. If you are going to treat us as if you are a student, you are our teacher in a classroom, and that's not going to happen. You will rather chase us away if you want us to listen.
Thank you, Honourable Magaka. You are allowed to exercise your democratic right, but the minute it goes beyond the rules of order, where it becomes disruptive and it affects the dignity and decorum of this House, then I have to call you to order. Thank you. Kindly compose yourselves, members. Thank you. Premier, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Make no mistake, good governance makes a difference to citizens, whether they are aware of it or not. Today, I will share our story of progress on the road less travelled over 2 terms. But first, let me welcome President Ramaphosa's commitment last week to try to repair some of the damage of the Zuma years. Given the conflicting voices emanating from the ruling party on how to address the Eskom crisis, however, the prognosis is not altogether promising. I have to state plainly that, as a province, we have often made progress despite the national government. While there are examples of constructive partnerships, many of the key areas under national responsibility on which we all depend have all but collapsed. These include, most worryingly, the criminal justice pipeline, policing and investigative capacity, the train system, major water supply projects, land restitution and redistribution, the fishing rights regime, state procurement systems, and of course, all state-owned enterprises. Corruption is so entrenched in the fabric of national government that it is hard to see how it can be eradicated without destroying the governing party. To the extent that our constitutional mandate allows, the Western Cape has a different narrative. We have been building the capable state for 10 years now, and the results have begun to show. At 83%, the Western Cape received the highest number of clean audits in South Africa in 2018-19 across all entities and departments. Once again, at 83%, we were well ahead of the next province, Gauteng, with 52% clean audits. Today, we are the cleanest government in South Africa.
Honourable
Quite
David.
a turnaround from the situation of 0 clean audits when we took office in 2009. However, the requirements of achieving clean audits, which is a concept unique to South Africa, are often so constraining that they throttle innovation and progress. We need, therefore, to move urgently to a system of auditing for impact and results. But what is undeniable, Madam Speaker, is that good governance enabled us to spend 82% of the provincial budget on delivering services to the poor. As a capable state, we've also been able to leverage our monitoring and support role over local government to embed good practice. And it shows. In 2009, when we took over, no Western Cape municipalities received clean audits from the Auditor General, apart from the Cape Town Metro. Fast forward to 2016-17, and 21 municipalities in the Western Cape achieved clean audits. In fact, throughout South Africa, Madam Speaker, 64% of all clean local audits were from one province, the Western Cape. During this time, we have learned firsthand how an economy responds to good and stable governance. Our key economic strategy, known as Project Khulisa, has succeeded because of its focus on sectors with high growth potential, low barriers to entry, especially for young people, and rural impact. The sectors are agri-processing, tourism, oil and gas, and the green economy. The results of this and other strategies are clear. We have South Africa's lowest unemployment rate, at a full 14 percentage points below the national average on the expanded definition. We've created 508,000 new jobs in the Western Cape since the start of the administration's first term. Based on this week's latest official statistics compared to the third quarter in 2009. It is worth mentioning, Madam Speaker, that if every province had done that, South Africa would be close to the 5 million job opportunities Jacob Zuma promised the country by 2020. This is the only province that has made its contribution towards that objective. Employment in the Western Cape grew by 24.8% between 2009 and 2018, well ahead of Gauteng at 18.6% and KwaZulu-Natal at 8.8%. We have South Africa's lowest rural unemployment rate at 15.7%. This solid economic record would not have been possible without our strategic focus, combined with red tape reduction and the ease of doing business strategies. A full 1 billion rand saving has been achieved across 27 red tape interventions studied where bureaucracy would otherwise have stifled growth. The momentum of our pro-job strategies has been seen as we pass some major economic milestones over the past 2 years. And these are just some of them, Madam Speaker. Cape Town was named the top financial centre in sub-Saharan Africa, overtaking Johannesburg on the 2018 Global Financial Centres Index. Cape Town is the city with the most job opportunities, based on an analysis of over 140,000 vacancies in January 2019 by job search engine Adzuna. We are Africa's tech hub. The Cape Town Stellenbosch tech ecosystem is the most productive in Africa, employing over 40,000 people. This is more than Lagos and Nairobi combined, according to the Endeavour Insights report of 2018. We are now also Africa's green economic hub. 70% of South Africa's renewable energy manufacturing takes place in the Western Cape. This is the driving force behind our country becoming the fastest growing green economy in the world, according to Moody's. Cape Town was also named top events and festival destination in the world at the 2018 World Travel Awards. This is in part the result of our support to 163 major events since 2011, including the Cape Town Cycle Tour, which is now the world's largest cycle race, the Cape Town Carnival, and the Klein Karoo Nasionale Kunstefees. And for the 10th consecutive year, we were named the top meetings, events, and conferencing destination in Africa by the ICCA. We were also South Africa's most successful province for building plans approved per square metre. This is a key indicator, Speaker, of investment into an economy, with 130 billion rand in new developments approved in our region since 2009. By building the capable state, the Western Cape government has been able to spend 42 billion rand on infrastructure since 2009, including 22 billion on roads, 9 billion on schools, 5.6 billion on health facilities, and 1.5 billion on libraries. On top of that, we've unlocked 1.8 billion in provincial and private sector infrastructure funding for the Saldanha Bay Industrial Development Zone since 2014-15. There are now, Madam Speaker, 8 confirmed major investors in the IDZ with a total investment value of 3 billion rand. We were also instrumental in establishing the Atlanta Special Economic Zone for Green Tech. That was the Western Cape Government and the City of Cape Town. It is projected to attract 3.7 billion in investment, create nearly 3,000 direct jobs by 2030, and save us from the toxic legacy of Eskom. At local level, we've helped municipalities create 15-year infrastructure investment plans through our local government department. Wesdro, our world-class trade, tourism and investment promotion agency, has secured 299 investments since 2009, attracting 100 billion worth of foreign direct investment and creating over 19,000 jobs in our region. Madam Speaker, in just 3 years, we have added over 750,000 international inbound seats to Cape Town and 13 new air routes, generating jobs, tourism, and investment. These expansions have injected an estimated 6 billion rand in tourist spend into the local economy. Speaker, tourism means jobs. Estimates based on the new Hong Kong route have shown that 1,000 jobs can be created in our economy for each new air route added. We continue to add new tourism offerings to attract more visitors, such as cycle routes, a Mandela legacy route, and a new archaeology and paleontology route to show the world that humanity did indeed begin in Southern Africa. In today's world, and especially in our climate-sensitive region, we recognize that growth and development must be sustainable. As government, we are playing our part. We have reduced electricity consumption in our metered buildings by 24% since 2015. Remarkably, these public buildings are now so energy efficient that monthly electricity usage is roughly half of that of the private sector. Water consumption, Speaker, is also down 20% over the same period. During the worst of Eskom's load shedding 5 years ago, we recognized the essential need for greater energy security and a diversified energy mix. At that time, we agreed on an energy security game changer, jointly with the City of Cape Town. And today, we are in a much stronger position to respond to the current power crisis as a result. While the generation and distribution of energy is not a mandate of provincial government, our energy security game changer has focused on driving small-scale embedded generation and rooftop solar PV in particular. In addition, we undertook much of the groundwork needed for the importation of liquid natural gas at Saldanha Bay, and the only obstacles remain those generated by national government. We have enabled an increase in rooftop PV installations from 18 megawatts to more than 110 megawatts, mostly by businesses. This is equivalent to adding an entire wind or solar PV farm to the grid. We've assisted 22 municipalities to put in place the necessary systems to accept rooftop PV power into their grids, and 18 of these municipalities have approved tariffs in place so that consumers can be compensated for electricity that they feed into the grid. and that is genuinely a game-changing transformation. We have also led by example, having committed 43 million rand for 14 solar PV installations on provincial government buildings, which will have a projected annual saving of just over 4 million rand once completed. These initiatives and other sources, such as the hydro plant at Steenbos Dam, have helped to reduce the grid load, providing insulation from stage 1 load shedding. However, this could not protect us from the latest stage 4 crisis, when Eskom unexpectedly dropped 4,000 megawatts from the grid. The need to drive local energy security remains as great as ever, and I call on businesses and households in the Western Cape to invest further in solar photovoltaic. We will continue our efforts to make this as easy as possible while ensuring public safety, and this is essential in order to ensure that there aren't any disasters generated by poor installations of solar PV. There has been much fanfare around the announcement by Total of a significant gas discovery off the southern coast of our country. It has been called another game changer for South Africa. However, the prospects of realizing this are still a long way off, and it is not a quick fix. A much more immediate game changer, Speaker, would be the importation of liquid natural gas, LNG, through Saldanha Bay. Firstly, this would enable Eskom to run its Atlantis power plant, Ankerlig, on gas, rather than the hugely expensive diesel, where trucks have been running non-stop during the past week at R1 million an hour. Second, liquid natural gas is a source of power coupled with renewable energy that can ensure a much greener future. Together, of course, with consistency of supply, which we have off our coastline. The water crisis, Madam Speaker, although its immediacy has been ameliorated, needs as a priority the fixing of the National Department of Water and Sanitation, and this is as urgent as the need to fix Eskom. The National Department must now move on their bulk supply mandate regarding the Clan-William Dam, the Brandvlei Dam, and the Berg River Full-Flow Augmentation Scheme. If those had been done on time, we would have been in a far better position to weather the crisis of 3 years of unprecedented drought. In the province, we have played our constitutional roles of local government oversight and particularly disaster management, and often stepped in with essential maintenance of infrastructure where the national government failed to do so on its own infrastructure. Since 2009, Madam Speaker, we have diligently overseen municipal spending of over 1.1 billion rand in grant funding for bulk water supplies, ensuring that all municipal infrastructure grants were fully spent.
Order, please.
We've cleared more than 250,000 hectares of water-sapping alien vegetation from our nature reserves.
Order.
During the
Premier,
worst of the
kindly
drought,
take your seat, please. Member Davids, you will be afforded an opportunity at the debate. Your interjections are now becoming a running commentary. Kindly be aware that you may interject, but if it becomes a running commentary, then I need to call you to order. I'm sorry. Member Davids, be warned. I'm cautioning you about running commentary. Thank you. Premier, you may proceed. You may proceed, Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. During the worst of the drought, technical and financial support was provided to municipalities, including geohydrologists, to ensure successful groundwater interventions. This year, the Department of Local Government spent 78.2 million rand on drought-related projects. By working with residents, municipalities, and NGOs, we have so far managed to prevent any town from running out of water, although Beaufort West, the Central Karoo, and Kannaland remain severely stressed. We have installed groundwater systems to secure 61 critical healthcare, social development, and office facilities, which will eventually supply 5.8 million litres of water per day. Water meters have been installed in 354 schools through a successful collaboration with the private sector. Together, we've achieved a total saving of 346 million litres of water, which in turn has led to a combined saving for schools of over 27 million rand in municipal bills. Speaker, no sector has felt the impact of the drought more than agriculture. Back in 2009, we passed the sector's first climate change response plan, compiled together with the industry. Since then, some truly innovative responses to climate change have evolved. I've addressed this House before on some of the technological innovations, such as the satellite-driven Fruit Look, which has enabled farmers to cut water use by up to 30%. We've also introduced a method of conservation agriculture for wheat farmers, which has delivered an economic benefit of 341 million rand, with wheat production higher across the board despite the drought. We have spent over 200 million rand on direct drought relief for farmers since 2017 through a combination of provincial and national funding. This support has been particularly meaningful to emerging farmers, many of whom have remained in business due to emergency fodder supplies and other support measures. Transformation, Madam Speaker, is not a quick fix, and populist rhetoric doesn't keep emerging farmers in business under tough industry conditions. Since 2014, we have supported 357 land reform projects with over 500 million rand in funding. We also leveraged 80 million rand annually in private sector support for emerging farmers, including market access contracts and mentorship programs. The result, Madam
Members,
Speaker,
Minister Windy and Member Dugmore, you cannot engage in a dialogue while the Premier is speaking. Please compose yourself. Thank you. I've called the Minister to order, as well as you, Honourable Dugmore. Do not engage each other. You will have an opportunity, or leave the room. Thank you. You may proceed, Premier. You may proceed,
I'm
Honourable
very
Premier.
pleased to hear the Opposition acknowledge that Minister Helen Windy is the Premier in waiting. Thank you very much.
Order, please, members.
Madam Speaker, of the 357 land reform projects that we have supported, 72% have been successful, compared to an estimated 10% nationally. In fact, our success rate is up despite the drought by a full 10 percentage points since the last time this independent evaluation was done in 2013. Our services to emerging farmers include training courses, mentorship, market access support, and farm development support. Drought recovery, Madam Speaker, has started, shown by the fact that our agriculture and agri-processing sectors added a combined 35,000 jobs between the third and fourth quarters of 2018, and that is truly remarkable. But despite 3 years of drought, these sectors still managed to create 10,000 extra jobs since 2015. Over the last decade, we have gone to increasing lengths to protect our people and our economy from major disasters, and there have been a very significant number. We have invested in cutting-edge technology in our
Order,
Central Joint
please.
Operating Command Centre.
Member David, Premier, take your seat, please. You are really getting close to Rule 44, Honourable David. Since I cautioned you, you have made 10 interjections. I've actually been ticking off here. So it is important, and ek sien jy lag, asseblief, bedaar. Thank you. You may proceed, Honourable Premier. Member David has acknowledged. Kindly manage yourselves. Order, please. You may proceed, Premier. Honourable Makaleni, you might incur Rule 44 very quickly. Thank you. You may proceed, Premier.
Madam Speaker, we have invested in cutting-edge technology in our Central Joint Operation Command Centre, which has served us well during the drought and particularly during the annual fire season. Our expanded disaster management resources have achieved an exceptional success rate, with 95% of wildfires being brought under control within the first hour of being reported. Now, when you say 95% of wildfires, Madam Speaker, I was studying the statistics this morning, and there were over 10,000 wildfires in this fire season, and 95% of them were brought under control within the first hour of being reported. And that is an extraordinary statistic. Since 2012, we've gone from 8 to 26 firefighting aircraft operating across 36 runways. We have also added 10 purpose-built firefighting vehicles deployed to rural municipalities across the province.
Excuse me, the Honourable Member will have an opportunity to express his frustration in the debate, not today. Thank you. You may proceed, Premier.
We have also added 10 purpose-built firefighting vehicles deployed to rural municipalities across the province. Our resources enabled us to lead South Africa's largest firefighting effort around Knysna in 2017, during which 10,000 people were evacuated. In 2018, we combated the largest geographically spread fire in South African history, the Outeniqua fires over a front of 180 kilometres. We continue to support the City of Cape Town in their disaster relief efforts for urban fires, and we remember all those who have lost their lives and earthly belongings from Khayelitsha to Betty's Bay. Even as we report on the extent of the relief efforts, we express our deepest condolences to the loved ones of the 44 people who have lost their lives in fires since October last year, both in urban and rural settings, including firefighting and helicopter pilots. Their job is hazardous, and they perform it selflessly. We pay sincere respect to them and their colleagues today. Many of the thousands of fires in our province this summer were caused by human agency, mostly accidentally, often foolishly, and sometimes even deliberately. Only human agency can solve this problem, Madam Speaker, and we must make concerted efforts to do so. Everyone can start by clearing alien vegetation on their property, never engaging in careless actions that risk starting fires, like shooting flares to celebrate something, and innovations that combat fires in dense urban settings. Speaker, I have summarised the economic progress we are making and how we are innovating in response to economic threats. I now turn to the reason why we do what we do, and the people to whom I dedicated my final term in office which is soon to come to an end. And that is the youth. Over the last 10 years, we've spent 171 billion rand on education, skills, and social opportunities for young people. In 2018 alone,
Order, please. Order.
in 2018, Madam Speaker, we spent over 24.8 billion rand, 38% of our budget, on
Sorry,
child
Premier, I'm
and
addressing both
youth-related
sides of the
services.
House. Ministers Fritz, Schaefer, Honourable Makaleni, you cannot engage in a conversation. Please compose yourselves. I know you were sick, Honourable Joseph, and it's very good to see you back. Thank you. That's not a point of order. Carry on, Premier. You may proceed.
Madam Speaker, in 2018 alone, we spent over 24.8 billion rand, which was 38% of the budget, on child and youth-related services, including e-learning, broadband, infrastructure, education, early childhood development, and child protection services. Our government has also prioritised a range of bursaries, skills training, internship and learnership opportunities for young people. We designated apprenticeships as a game changer and committed to work with national government partners who run technical and vocational education and training colleges, known as TVET colleges. Much still needs to be done to improve and promote TVETs. They really should be the engine rooms of opportunity for the majority of young people looking to start their careers. We are working with local high schools and colleges to create a skills pathway for our learners, and with employers to open up the workplace for apprenticeships and other training opportunities. Despite the country's sluggish economic growth, our apprenticeship game changer is on track to meet our 2019 target of 11,000 learners entering apprenticeship training opportunities and of 13,000 qualified apprentices entering the labour market in our key sectors. This is significant growth from a base of just 1,170 and just 540 respectively. And if the Honourable the Opposition wasn't so busy trying to interject, they would understand how significant those statistics are as a pipeline to jobs and skills for young people. Since 2012, Madam Speaker, we have run a government-wide internship program known as the Premier's Advancement of Youth or PAY program. Around 4,300 internship opportunities have been created since PAY's inception. This includes 700 opportunities just this year alone, which the province is funding to the value of 31 million rand. Our other major bursaries and learnerships over 2 terms include the Masaki Sizwe bursary scheme in disciplines involving the built environment, that is 776 bursaries at 86 million rand. And the National Youth Service Learnership and Skills Program, that's 2,959 beneficiaries at 65.8 million rand. The Chrysalis Academy trains 600 youth annually, and our Further Education and College Training Partnership has afforded more than 1,000 youth the opportunity of furthering their education. The Chrysalis Academy, Madam Speaker, was a purely provincial intervention, and it always has been, And perhaps one of the biggest mistakes we made as a government was to transfer control of the TVETs to national government, which is where much of their problems emanate from. We've spent 53.7 million rand over 5 years on youth opportunity initiatives for the agriculture sector. Over 990 young people have benefited from bursaries, internships, exchange programs, and postgraduate studies. At our own Elsenburg Agricultural Training Institute, 915 youth completed various qualifications. Since 2014, we've provided 6,575 health bursaries to medical students across various disciplines at a cost of 247 million rand. We've quadrupled the number of young people benefiting from youth development services, specifically through our social development department, from 5,600 in 2009 to 19,400 in 2018. Madam Speaker, our biggest budget item for youth is, of course, basic education, perhaps the most intractable challenge in democratic South Africa.
6,000 children without school as we talk now.
Those are outdated figures, so get your figures and your facts right before you come and interject here.
Premier, kindly
Madam
address the
Speaker.
chair. Order, please.
Madam Speaker,
Take your seat, Premier, please. Kindly take your seat. We cannot, via interjections, pose questions to the Premier. If you wish to pose a question, you do it through the chair. I will then request if the Premier wishes to take a question. If she does not, then you need to wait for the debate on Tuesday. Thank you. You may proceed, Premier.
Madam Speaker, may I address you?
Yes, of course you may.
Madam Speaker, I had resolved not to respond to interjections from the Honourable the Opposition. They are so uninformed
Order.
and, I'm afraid, ignorant and unfounded in fact, that to let these facts that allegedly are given by the Honourable the Opposition hang in the air are totally intolerable. But from now on, Madam Speaker, I will ignore them on condition that this House realises how without foundation they are, and I will continue and take them on head on in the debate next week.
Excuse me, Premier. There's a point of... Honourable Premier, kindly take your seat. Member Joseph, is it a point of order?
Yes. I would like to say that
Is it a point of order, Honourable Joseph?
is taking exception for the attitude that the Premier display in terms of
That's not a
the
point of
thinking
order,
of us.
Honourable Joseph. Kindly take your seat. Chief of Bali, it's not sustained. Take your seat. That's not a point of order. You may proceed, Premier. May I appeal to both sides of the House, on my right and on my left? Order, please. Honourable Dugmore.
I don't have a monopoly.
Honourable
You don't have any.
Dugmore, if I may address you, there is no she. In terms of the proceeding, it is the Premier or the Honourable Premier. We do not refer to each other as he or she. We refer to each other as Honourable. Thank you. Order, please. That is so irrelevant, Honourable Magaka. Members, please. Order. Order. Sorry, I heard that, Honourable Davids. Minister Fritz, Premier, take your seat, please. Minister Fritz. Minister Fritz, may I... Member Davids. Member Davids. Member Davids, please. I am addressing the Honourable Fritz. Minister Fritz, if I may address you, to say shut up is completely inappropriate and unparliamentary. I would like you to withdraw that.
I withdraw,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you. Members, this is an important occasion. Let's try and manage ourselves with dignity and respect, both sides of the House. We have an audience, we have the electorate out there, and they expect better from us. We are paid with taxpayers' money. The least we can do is give them their money's worth. So let's manage ourselves and get on with the business of the day. You may proceed, Premier.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Our biggest budget item for youth is, of course, basic education, perhaps the most intractable problem in democratic South Africa. To address this challenge, we recently passed the most significant measure in education reform since 1994, the introduction of an independent schools evaluation authority. We believe the SEA will deepen accountability in public education. In time, every school in the province will be independently evaluated with a focus on the efficacy of teaching and learning in the classroom. The reports will be published online for parents to see how a school is performing. Our reading and math scores are higher than the national averages of all African states, including in the wide-ranging SACMEC 4 report. This is an authoritative internationally published study around the midpoint of our time in office, and we only expect to improve from this point. The SACMEC report further indicated that the Western Cape has an advanced reading score that is double the national average. 72.7% compared to 36.1% nationally. We were also well ahead of the second-ranked province, Gauteng, at 54%. So our advanced reading score was 72.7%, and Gauteng, the second-ranked province, was 54%. Part of the success has been a drive to get children into education earlier. By 2018, the number of children in our funded early childhood development centres had increased to 76,000, compared to 50,000 in 2009. Monitoring and testing in the earlier grades is another key part of our strategy, and our systemic tests require 50% for a pass. Our approach to matric results is also different because we look beyond the pass rate, emphasizing key indicators of quality, keeping young people in schools for as long as possible, which we call the retention rate, access to higher education, measured through the number of bachelor's passes, maths passes, and science passes. And we're also still the only province testing matric markers for competency. Again, the results are showing. Our retention rate from grades 10 to 12 is the highest in the country by a significant margin, at around 63% for the 2018 cohort. No other province managed even to get a retention rate of over 50%. In summary, since 2009, the overall matric pass rate has increased from 75.7% to 81.5%. The bachelor pass rate, Madam Speaker, has increased from 31.9% to 42.3% in 2018. The proportion of bachelor's passes in quintile 1 to 3 schools, which are the poorest schools, has more than doubled since 2009. The maths pass rate has increased from 64.9% in 2009 to 76% in 2018. And the science pass rate increased from 52.9% to 79.5% in 2018. It is simply impossible to achieve these results without pro-poor education policies, and that is what we have followed. Around 40% of all Western Cape schools are no-fee schools. We also use our own provincial funds to assist a further 218 quintile 4 schools that need support because of the poverty-stricken children who attend them. This year, we budgeted 53 million for fee exemption to assist poor learners to attend fee-paying schools, far exceeding any other province in this pro-poor policy. In 2009, the pass rate in the poorest schools was 57.5%. By 2018, it had risen to 70.5%. We've seen similar pass rates increase by 10.6% in quintile 2 and 15.6% in quintile 3 during the same period. So poor learners have shown the greatest improvement because of our investment and efforts. If we want every child to get access to quality education, we have to improve education quality in our schools and in all our schools. It is impossible to fit every child into the limited number of really high-quality schools in the system, and it is unfair to make them responsible for systemic failure. There are many willing private sector partners who want to make a difference in basic education, and we will continue to promote their involvement. We are refining a unique model called collaboration schools. So far, we have established 10 collaboration schools in disadvantaged communities as part of a pilot project attracting 150 million rand in private funding to public schools. The model involves a genuine partnership with the private sector, where operating partners with educational expertise enter into contracts with the Western Cape Education Department and with funders to achieve specified education outcomes in particular public schools. This is not only improving education outcomes, we are also seeing improved parental involvement, which is a critical success factor. Speaker, there is no doubt our education system is under major pressure on a number of fronts. Demand for places is growing, and learners often arrive in January without being registered by their parents the previous year. More than 113,000 learners have relocated to the Western Cape since 2014, with an additional 16,285 learners arriving from other provinces for the start of the 2019 academic year. Each learner that enters the province costs the department around 14,000 rand per year, excluding infrastructure costs, and we do our best to meet their needs. The cost over the last 5 years is more than 1.84 billion rand. And for this year alone, it is estimated at 414 million. But the funding from the National Treasury, Speaker, does not follow the learners.
Honourable Premier, kindly take your seat. Is it a point of order, Honourable Magaka?
Yes, Speaker. Yes, Speaker, but also we have been really tolerant in listening to the Premier.
Your point of order, Honourable Magaka.
I think we can't continue listening
Take
to
a seat,
this.
please, Chief Whip.
Therefore, Speaker, as the ANC, we are gonna go out here
Order. Thank you.
and give the real state of the province outside this. This is a distortion. This is a distortion of the reality that this province is facing.
Thank you.
There are 6,000 children who are out of school, and the Premier is saying
Honourable
absolutely
Magaka.
nothing about that.
Honourable Magaka, that is not
Therefore,
a point. That is not a point of order. The House is suspended.
DA must go. DA must go.
Members, kindly leave. Do not be rude and disrespectful. Members, kindly leave. Member Diana. Member Diana. Member Diana and Member Nkondlo, please leave. I heard that, Honourable Diana. Thank you. Yes, Chief Whip.
The thuggish behaviour we've just experienced by the ANC cannot go unpunished. And I'm going to, at the later sitting, put a
Take your
motion
seat, please,
of
Honourable
censure
Joseph.
to those members. Interacting with the Honourable Premier's husband is totally unacceptable.
Honourable Joseph, take your seat, please. There's a member on the floor. Take your seat.
It's totally unacceptable.
Take your seat, please.
And I would ask for your support when this motion comes about.
Thank you. I will certainly revert to Hansard. I will revisit the visuals. I couldn't see the altercation on this side, but it would be the duty of the House and the table staff to revisit the incident. I apologize for what has transpired, and I apologize to our guest in the chamber. You may proceed, Premier.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. After that staged walkout, the honourable members of the opposition were just waiting for a big enough crowd to assemble outside.
If you could take your seat, please, Premier. The Honourable Joseph is on the floor.
Speaker, I take exception the way that you have shown me with the finger.
Yes.
In layman terms,
Yes.
you want to constitute a fight.
Okay. Okay.
But
That very finger you are pointing.
I will put it in writing, my
you.
complaint. Because I see you don't want to address certain people in the gallery.
Honourable Joseph, this is not...
No. I
Should you
see
wish...
you don't want to address certain people from the gallery if they are having an attitude in this house. You have said at the start of this sitting
I did.
that the people
Sorry.
in the gallery should not participate
Participate
in the debate.
proceedings.
And
That's
you have
right.
explained, but I see you allow it.
Honourable Joseph, did not have full vision of what was transpiring. I have told you that I will revert to Hansard. We will revisit the audio. But as an honourable member, Chief, kindly take your seat, please. You should know that when an honourable member is on the floor, it is deemed prudent for you to stay in your seat until you are recognised. And that was what I was calling you out on, because you defied me by standing, knowing that you should have been seated. Thank you. Chief Whip Wiley.
Thank you, Speaker. Under the rules of the House, 41 and 44, I must insist, please, that if members want to stand up and unilaterally make statements without authority, they must be asked to withdraw from the chamber.
Thank you, Chief Whip. It is noted. May we proceed? Premier, I apologise for the walkout. I do suspect there was a method to the madness, but you may proceed with your presentation.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. As we know that was a staged walkout, and they chose their timing very badly, because I'm just explaining exactly what we are doing to place the children who have not been able to be placed because of late arrivals at schools, and we are working day and night to ensure that those children can be placed. But the Opposition was, as I said, waiting for enough of a crowd to gather outside to go and hold their protest. And now we can continue in peace, and the rest of the citizens listening in on YouTube and other mechanisms can actually hear what I'm saying. So I am very grateful for that. The cost over the last 5 years for learners coming into this province, for which there was no budget, was 1.84 billion rand. And for this year alone, it is estimated at 414 million rand. The problem is that the funding from the National Treasury does not follow the learners. If the funding did follow the learners, we would be in a far better position to accommodate all of the learners, from infrastructure to learning resources and teachers. This is a major flaw in the system, Madam Speaker, that must be rectified. Besides these pressures, the nationally negotiated wage increases have had a devastating impact on our budget. provinces were left to cover those increases without any additional funding, despite the recklessly negotiated salary increases that went way beyond the agreed negotiating mandate. The result of all this is, very sadly, growing class sizes because of insufficient funding to provide additional educators and classrooms, which we so desperately need. What's more, the Western Cape's population is projected to grow by 57,000 people each year between now and 2030. So budgets in which funding follows people is an absolutely essential prerequisite for meeting governmental obligation in this country. To run a rapidly growing education system, the reality is that spending will need to increase by 3.5% a year, with a 57% real increase required between now and 2030. Without a capable state at provincial level, our system would already have seized up. We have waited long enough for reforms in national funding policy, and there is not a moment to waste if we want to be ready for the enormous challenges ahead that I have just spelt out. For our part, we have built, on average, 13 schools and 206 new classrooms for every year we have been in office since 2009. This amounts to 132 schools and close to 2,057 classrooms over our 2 terms. Between 2004 and 2009, under a previous administration speaker, just 42 schools were built at a far slower rate. The fourth industrial revolution has been central to our planning for education. Learners need to be prepared for a digital world, and the smart use of technology is one of the ways of coping with a growing education system. This is an enormously challenging undertaking and involves a great deal more than getting a tablet to every child. There are many complex interdependent steps that need to be successfully undertaken before technology can make any difference in education. But for the infrastructure needs, we have made significant progress and have reached our target of full broadband coverage, reaching a total of 1,875 sites, including over 1,200 schools, more than 200 libraries, and approximately 400 other public facilities. We are now converting 1,600 of the province's broadband points into free Wi-Fi sites, with 3 gigabytes free data to the public each month, and South Africa's cheapest top-up rate of 15 Rand for 2 gigabytes, which is 40% lower than the nearest mobile competitor. The broadband program prioritized schools and our e-learning game changer, and those are laying the foundation for our children's digital future. In total, we have invested 1.4 billion into e-learning and the infrastructure required over the past 5 years. We expect the positive results to become evident over time as we continue to resolve obstacles in the pipeline, simplify the system, gather data, and measure learner outcomes. During this term, we connected over 80% of schools to free internet, refreshed 1,160 computer laboratories, delivered over 28,800 devices, created an online portal with 11,000 learning resources, and trained 70% of teachers in e-learning techniques. Our biggest challenge remains stable connectivity, capable of supporting multiple devices simultaneously, and the ESCOM crisis certainly does not help. We must nevertheless press ahead to create a transformed culture of education, supported to the maximum extent by cutting-edge technology. And our teachers who have been so willing to grasp this new opportunity must be thanked and congratulated for their efforts. The general public can also access free internet in 70 Cape access centres, the majority of which have been built in some of the most remote rural towns in this province. Since 2013, our Social Development Department has established 9 youth cafes, now receiving 10,000 visits from young people every month, and 4 more cafes will be opening soon. Our 373 library centres account for more than 20% of all libraries across the 9 provinces in South Africa. We have built 53 new libraries and upgraded a further 18 since 2009 for a total investment of 1.5 billion rand. This has empowered 42 more communities in 22 municipalities since we came into office. Rural libraries have also been connected to free, high-speed internet in 24 municipalities. Over 15.6 million library items were issued to the over 811,000 registered users in the province during 2017. For this reason, the Western Cape has the highest library membership in South Africa, and by far the highest book circulation figures of any province. Madam Speaker, since the start of our after-school game changer in 2014, we've achieved a more than 4-fold increase in learners attending regular quality after-school programs. There's been a concurrent 187% increase in schools with registered programs, up from 188 to 539. The number of learners participating regularly and consistently has increased from 14,900 at the start of the project to 81,100 this year, with a positive effect on learner outcomes, reducing school dropout rates and helping to prevent high-risk behaviour. We are also professionalising the after-school sector, with nearly 500 coaches professionally trained to date. We have introduced a practitioner's code of conduct at NQF Level 6, which is a training program and postgraduate qualification in partnership with universities. Funding for local sports organisations has increased by 124% since 2009, with an average of 120 organisations supported at grassroots level each year. From the grassroots upwards, Madam Speaker, we are placing Cape Town on the global sporting map. Since 2009, the number of major sporting events we support has increased by 248%, with 92 events this year compared to just 25 events when we took office. Speaker, no government anywhere can substitute for active and involved parents. That is why one of our flagship partnerships involves more than 2,000 parents and volunteers actively chaperoning school children via walking buses to and from some 222 schools in 75 communities. During school holidays, our Youth Safety Religious Partnership has been funded to the tune of 29 million rand and reached more than 108,000 young people since its inception in 2012. Our alcohol harms reduction game changer has also focused on recreational activities for the youth, introducing computer-based ICANN Gaming Centre in Cape Town, in Town 2 in Khayelitsha, to keep our young people safe and occupied during the school holidays. CCTV cameras were also installed in the area as part of this initiative. And in a recent community survey, a total of 74% of respondents in the area said that they felt their neighbourhood is a better and safer place compared to a year ago due to these initiatives. Speaker, South Africa is one of the few countries in the world that does not devolve policing functions to regional and provincial governments. This is a major challenge and something we believe needs to be changed. While we don't have operational control in any sense over policing, we have worked hard to build the partnerships needed for safer schools. We are improving coordination amongst law enforcement authorities by chairing a Provincial School Safety Priority Committee. Our Education Department runs a dedicated Safe Schools call centre, and we have a permanent Safe Schools representative at the Cape Town Traffic Management Centre, where law enforcement agencies converge. The dedicated schools officer coordinates response to safety problems at schools across all law enforcement agencies from this point. In addition, Speaker, a total of 109 school resource officers have also been deployed to 53 schools in high crime areas, playing a crucial role in enhancing safety. Crime has an impact on a range of critical infrastructure and services, none more so than our rail commuter network. PRASA, the national government entity which operates the train service, requires 88 train sets to run an effective service in Greater Cape Town. The available sets are now down to 46, just over half the number required, due to arson, cable theft, and vandalism. Arson damage to trains has amounted to over 500 million rand, with 148 coaches destroyed in 32 incidents since October 2015. Passengers have been forced to abandon the train service in large numbers. In 2014, over 608,000 Cape Townians used trains every day to commute. By 2017, this number dropped by over 60% to approximately only 200,000 daily commuters. This statistic, more than any other, shows the direct link between the dysfunctional rail system and congestion on our roads. The other consequence has been increased daily commuter costs, as all other modes cost more than rail, as well as an increase in travel time and frustration for everyone. We have had no choice but to invest provincial resources to compensate for the collapse of vital functions under national government control. One is a new rail enforcement unit, which is now in operation, thanks to the province's Transport and Public Works Department and the City of Cape Town signing a memorandum of agreement with PRASA. In this province, we've invested 16 million rand towards 100 additional security officials on trains, and the results are beginning to show. In just over 3 months of operation, the Rail Enforcement Unit has conducted over 11,800 searches, made over 430 confiscations, and arrested 52 individuals across 75 operations. Rail safety, school safety, and general vandalism, all of these are symptoms of a police force that is under-resourced and demoralized. As many as 85% of police stations in the Western Cape do not have the necessary manpower or resources to effectively address crime, according to oversight conducted by the Provincial Parliament. The average police to population ratio for the Western Cape currently stands at 1 officer to 509 residents. This is much higher than the national average of 1 to 369. In the metro, the situation is even worse, at 1 to 560. Crime is highest where police are the most under-resourced and the criminal justice pipeline is broken. The handful of convictions in gang-related crimes are failing to make an impact, with conviction rates as low as 10% in gang-affected precincts. In response, we set up a unique court-watching briefs unit, monitoring 3,269 cases in 40 courts across the province in 2017. In many instances, the work of this unit successfully prevents cases being dropped from the roll and helps achieve convictions on the basis of evidence. In total, we have made over a dozen formal demands for more policing resources in the Western Cape, and we certainly do so every year in our annual policing plan, which the national government is supposed to base its allocation to the Western Cape on. In this regard, because our petitions have failed, we welcome the recent High Court ruling ordering the national government to provide more policing resources in poorer, unsafe communities, and we are grateful to the NGOs that helped drive this initiative. More recently, we offered to fund additional policing reservists to bolster policing resources and to encourage over 84,000 provincial employees to take up administrative relief duties at identified stations in support of police personnel. To hold the police and the national government accountable, the Western Cape has pushed the boundaries of its oversight powers over policing more than has happened in any other province. And there is much more in the pipeline. The background to the establishment of the Khayelitsha Commission of Inquiry and the creation of the Office of the Police Ombudsman are well known. I don't have to repeat them here. The bottom line is that we are the only provincial government to have defined our oversight powers in legislation with the promulgation of the Community Safety Act. Formal accreditation and resource support to neighbourhood watches is another first for South Africa, also under that act. So far, we've accredited over 290 neighbourhood watch structures with a vetted membership of 14,000. These organisations are the core of safety partnerships that must develop further to involve every resource, formal and informal, that our government and communities can muster, applying technology to help enhance community safety. Speaker, those partnerships must be bolstered by the work we are doing to promote spatial transformation. There are many components to the strategy, including integrated human settlements, affordable housing, development planning, traffic management, and public transport. Since 2009, we have delivered 212,967 housing opportunities. I see that Minister Zille counted them to the last 7. So we have delivered 212,967 housing opportunities across the Western Cape. In the current term, we have exceeded our combined target for housing and service sites in every financial year since 2014. And we are on track to meet 100% of our targets by the end of this term. As a result of our human settlements delivery strategy during this term, we injected 19.3 billion rand into the construction and the real estate sector, and consistently ensured that not less than 50% thereof benefit SMMEs. This has facilitated an estimated 2,400 job opportunities in the construction industry, with 342 young people completing our capacity building program. Going forward, a total of 105,500 housing opportunities are in the pipeline for completion by 2022 as part of our catalytic program. And all of those projects are at various stages of design, planning, and construction. Opportunities are aimed at the poorest residents and will benefit, amongst others, informal settlement dwellers along the N2 in Cape Town, and we would be able to move far more quickly if it wasn't for internal community conflicts. Also for farm workers in Transhex at the Breda Valley and Vlakkeland in Paarl, as well as residents of the Southern Cape in areas such as Thembalethu, Wilderness Heights, and Saferfontein. We are also placing a particular emphasis on property ownership as a pathway out of poverty. Since 2009, 103,000 people have received title deeds across the Western Cape. In every financial year of the current term, the Western Cape has exceeded its title deed delivery targets by a minimum of 2,000. This has reduced poverty as beneficiaries are now property owners. Through our efforts in the Western Cape, we have brought the title deeds backlog down to 25%, compared to 59% nationally. This has been possible through a dedicated team tasked to expedite the transfer of title deeds across the province. Speaker, I have used this platform on previous occasions to advocate for fundamental reform in national housing policy and the nationally set subsidy regime within which we must all work. Demand for housing is simply too high to sustain the old model of free housing, only limited to the truly indigent. Government must understand that its key role in housing provision is to facilitate and incentivize large-scale private sector entry in low-cost formal housing, using subsidies to make the end product more affordable for the end user rather than free. The future of human settlements is for residents to make some contribution to their housing, supported by integrated financial models that include state subsidies, market cross-subsidization, and bank funding. At the basis of all this, yet again, has to be economic growth, investment, and jobs. No one can contribute to their own housing without a job. Without growth and jobs, little else is possible or sustainable in our country. Speaker, this brings me to what is known as the Conradi Better Living Model game changer. Using a 22-hectare provincially owned property in Pinelands, an inner city feeder suburb, we have devised a way of delivering affordable housing through a combination of subsidies, grant funding, and private sector involvement. After a focused 3-year effort, run directly by a dedicated project team, we broke ground on this project in January this year. The development will provide 3,602 residential units, of which 1,764 will be grant subsidized and therefore more affordable. The pioneering Better Living model leverages the remaining open market units to cross-subsidize the affordable units. This makes the overall development viable and replicable. The R3 billion estimated total construction cost will include commercial space, parks and recreational spaces, and 2 new schools. It will also catalyse upgrades to road infrastructure and public transport in the surrounding area. Over 13,600 jobs will be created by this project. Another game-changing affordable housing project that has reached execution stage includes the Belhar CBD project, which will deliver 4,188 units in total near to several key education institutions, and the Somerset precinct at the V&A waterfront, with over 300 units planned for the Helen Zille site in phase 1, if we can resolve the challenge of the current unlawful occupation of that building. Outside of the metro, we have gained approval for restructuring zones, and this status will be granted in 11 towns around the province, enabling grant funding for affordable housing to be used in these areas. In total, there are more than 23,000 social rental housing units and 19,000 affordable ownership projects in the planning pipeline over the next 10 years. And this includes both Cape Town and 11 non-metro towns, with a total value in excess of R7 billion. One of the main factors, Speaker, encumbering development projects currently is the uncoordinated public participation processes required by various local, provincial, and national authorities. This means one development can be subject to more than 6 different public participation processes, with timelines running up to 18 months each. Cabinet has agreed that it is a priority to integrate various public participation processes to allow for comment from the public in a more streamlined way, while still protecting the quality and the purpose of public participation. This will require changes in legislation, but we believe that the critical need for streamlining and speeding housing delivery requires this. Over and above this, we have also proposed significant amendments to other legislation that creates inefficiencies and blocks the delivery process without adding any tangible value. While very little of substance was said on housing policy in the State of the Nation address, I was pleased to hear the President's commitment to releasing national government land in urban settings for housing development. We have asked the national government to do this for a long time, and now we at least have a verbal commitment. Cape Town is particularly well endowed with such land, owned either by the South African National Defence Force or Transnet. Our calculations indicate that the sites known as Culemborg, Eysterplaat, Youngsfield, Wingfield and Denell could yield close to 100,000 affordable housing units. The national government is also responsible for developing District 6. But 23 years later, this prime land remains mostly undeveloped, save for just 139 units. The nationally owned mega properties in Cape Town and District 6 demonstrate something very important. It is entirely possible to make progress with significant land reform without expropriating property without compensation. The land is there. The land is there in large areas. It just takes a capable state to make efficient use of the prime land currently available. And so, Madam Speaker, my challenge to President Ramaphosa today is this: give us an urgent public commitment to release these properties, along with a necessary budget, and we will apply our better living model for game-changing affordable housing on these sites. The model is now in place, and we can move really quickly. Speaker, local government also has a big role to play across all of our housing programs, particularly in terms of bulk infrastructure, which is obviously needed to support integrated human settlements. Through our monitoring and support role, we have assisted municipalities to deliver on their basic service mandate. Access to piped water stands at 99% overall in this province, according to Stats SA's June 2018 census for municipalities. Access to electricity is at 97%, that is when Eskom isn't load shedding, it is at 97%, and waste removal is at 98%. On sanitation, 14 out of the top 20 municipalities with the highest household access to sanitation are in just one province, the Western Cape. Overstrand, at 99.2%, is the highest in the land, according to Stats SA's Community Survey 2016. Poorer households in the Western Cape benefit the most from free basic services. According to Stats SA data in 2017, our province showed the highest proportion of consumer units for free basic water, at 76.4% of consumers, and while in the Western Cape was 76.4% with free basic water, the next province was the Eastern Cape with 41.8%. Free basic electricity to 32%, followed by the Eastern Cape at 27.8%. Free basic sewerage and sanitation at 67.9%, followed by the Eastern Cape at 39.2%. Today, residents in remote rural locations are also more easily accessible to a range of government services. Since 2009, we've added 9 new Tusong centres to the 28 across the province, and these provide services to 1.3 million people annually who would otherwise battle to access a range of government support services due to their remote rural location. And travelling across the province as I do, it is quite touching to see what a provision of a Tusong centre means in people's lives. Municipal, given all of these combined efforts, it is no wonder that in 2018, Ratings Africa rated the Western Cape municipalities as the best in the country, with a combined average rating of 62% compared to the national average of 41%. Municipal IQ also found a total of 8 out of the top 10 municipalities in the National Municipal Productivity Index are in the Western Cape. So 80% of the most productive municipalities in the country are in this province. Beyond the monitoring and support we provide to municipalities, we view local government as our allies in development and growth. Our regional socio-economic program, that we know as RCEP, is a joint planning initiative with municipalities to develop infrastructure in disadvantaged communities. Since inception in 2014, we have expanded the RCEP program to 10 municipalities. A total of 310 million rand has so far been injected into RCEP projects through a combination of funding mechanisms. Projects include safe walkways, trading hubs for local entrepreneurs, multi-purpose sports centres, and youth centres with free access to the internet in rural communities. We're also applying both the RCEP and the violence prevention through urban upgrading methods to a flagship development in Manenberg. Here we are giving substance to the vision of a youth lifestyle campus, spanning dozens of city blocks, connected by safe, well-lit promenades and state-of-the-art education facilities. Together with our community partners, we have devised a preferred scenario for how best to deliver a 590-bed regional hospital, 4 upgraded primary schools, and a brand new schools of skills, so desperately needed in that community. Having laid the foundation in this term together with the city and the community, I look forward to witnessing the spatial transformation of Manenberg in the years to come. But this must go hand in hand with social transformation. The purpose is to offer youth a viable alternative to the gangs and drugs culture. It is up to them, their families and parents and communities to seize this opportunity. Ongoing investment into our roads network in particular has made communities more connected and economically active. In total, Speaker, we've spent over 22 billion rand since 2009, half on maintaining the good network of roads under provincial authority and half on constructing new roads. Our investment has ensured that 95% of all kilometres travelled by vehicles in the Western Cape are on roads in a fair to very good condition, according to a comprehensive study. Not only do we keep roads in good condition, we are also making them safer by leading in traffic management innovation. Our firsts include mobile evidentiary breath alcohol testing, random breathalyzer testing, handheld devices for traffic officials, award-winning public communications campaigns, and a forthcoming transport intelligence hub for world-class coordination, not to mention number plate recognition, which puts the fear of immediate detection on many non-law-abiding citizens. The result of our efforts are becoming clear. We've reduced road deaths by over 30% in the last 10 years, and child road deaths by over 40%. This is at least 2,587 lives saved, an estimated 50,700 injuries prevented, and that could have been any one of us, who knows, and a saving to the economy of 18 billion rand in terms of income loss prevented. During this term, we also established South Africa's first non-metro integrated public transit network in George. The bus service currently operates on 14 routes and conveys in excess of 300,000 passengers every month. A total of 248 people are permanently employed by the vehicle operating company, all of whom, except for 2, were previously involved in the minibus and small bus industries in George. We recently introduced an automated fare collection system, and this service was also the first to introduce branded minibuses that are specifically accessible to people with disabilities. Which brings me, Speaker, to a topic that is very close to my heart: people living with disabilities. This has been a consideration in all the work that we do, across every portfolio. And I thank my Cabinet colleagues for caring so much about this important and often neglected sector of society. In 2009, just 120 people with disabilities received specialized services from provincial government. Just 120 people received specialized services from this provincial government. This has increased radically to 88,000 in 2018. This, Madam Speaker, was made possible by a survey to actually find people in need of this service, and the trebling of our disabilities budget from 45 million in 2009 to over 162 million in 2018. Over 50 NGOs are now rendering specialized support services, and we've also developed referral pathways between the social development, health, and education departments. Our range of support services, Madam Speaker, is a key reason why 64% of all special needs matriculants came from the Western Cape. 64% across the whole of South Africa of special needs matriculants came from the Western Cape, despite the fact that our province is only home to 12% of South Africa's total population. As a caring government, we have expanded our social services footprint dramatically since coming into office. Our social development department has grown from 1 head office and 16 district offices in 2009 to 45 live local offices and various service points or satellite offices in 2018. This has increased our reach by 176% between 2009 and 2018. Bringing services closer to the vulnerable, the abused, the elderly, and to children. In total, there are 1,510 social work professionals across this province, compared to a third of that number, just 503 available posts in 2009. We have also gone the extra mile to reach out to people in need of substance abuse treatment, which is such a critical problem and often intractable problem in this province. We have grown our network of funded substance abuse treatment services from a mere 7 in 2009 to 51 organizations working at 76 sites across the province today. During the current term of office, we provided early intervention services to over 30,000 individuals. And of course, the sooner you identify a substance abuse problem, the more easily you can intervene. Aftercare and reintegration services to nearly 9,000 individuals, inpatient treatment to over 5,000 service users, and outpatient treatment to nearly 10,000 users. We've also focused on tackling the negative effects of alcohol abuse in communities under our Alcohol Harms Reduction Game Changer. Although we have such an intractable substance abuse problem, Madam Speaker, the one that still inflicts the most damage, especially through violence and fatal car crashes, is alcohol. One of our focused areas has been ensuring greater adherence to the rule of law as it relates to liquor sales, both in terms of the regulatory environment and at community level. We've been working closely with communities and law enforcement agencies in 3 pilot target areas, namely Khayelitsha Town 2, Gunya, the abbreviation for Gugulethu and Nyanga, and the Drakensberg municipality, to increase safety in and around liquor outlets. The Western Cape Liquor Authority's ability to tackle illegal and irresponsible trading was also dramatically strengthened after new regulations under the Western Cape Liquor Act came into effect. It now compels the provincial liquor inspectors to include illegal outlets in their inspection routines. and has increased the value of fines to 100,000 rand for outlets operating beyond their license conditions. More inspectors have also been appointed to ensure the regulations are properly enforced, and communities are very grateful for this. As a result of this and other measures, there's been a significant increase in the Liquor Authority's revenue since 2016, which is being spent on ameliorating alcohol-related harms. As a caring government, Madam Speaker, we have also gone the extra mile to mobilize a range of stakeholders around safe passage for young men through cultural initiation. Since 2014, a total of 7,689 people were initiated in the Western Cape with a 99.74% safe passage rate. This was made possible through our customary male initiation program, which has catalyzed collaboration with communities, practitioners, government departments, and entities such as Cape Nature, municipality, and traditional healers and surgeons. Today, overall, life expectancy in the Western Cape, overall, is the highest in the country, supported by a functional public health care system facing enormous strain. Since 2009, Madam Speaker, life expectancy for men has increased from 59 years to 66 years. And for women, listen to this, good news, women, and for women, from 64 years to a projected 72 years. Running public health care in the Western Cape is a truly massive effort and our biggest budget item. Health services are provided to the 75.3% of the Western Cape's 6.5 million people who are uninsured. In 2017-18, we had over 14 million primary care contacts across the system, which do not even include home and community-based care. To keep up with demand, Speaker, we've spent 4 billion rand on capital infrastructure since 2009 and an additional 2 billion rand on maintaining existing infrastructure. This investment includes major new district hospitals in Khayelitsha of 330 beds, and Mitchell's Plain 391 beds, an emergency medical service data center to the value of 250 million rand, 10 emergency centers replaced or upgraded, 40 new primary healthcare centers completed, and 11 new ambulance stations built. Our growing network of facilities and numbers of patients have required new and innovative responses to service delivery. A central depot has been set up to manage medicine distribution to healthcare facilities across the province, and this has made an enormous difference. Our health department has refined a system which helps to prevent local stockouts of medicines which the province is responsible for supplying. Patients are foremost in our planning considerations. To make it easier for stable patients to collect chronic medication, we launched the chronic dispensing unit from 6,000 collection points, other than health facilities, for medication sent by courier. This service has grown to a point where, on average, 380,000 patients receive parcels from the CDU every month, and over 4.5 million medicine parcels are distributed every year. The Western Cape has the highest percentage of households living within 30 minutes of their nearest health facility, at 91.5% of people, according to Stats SA's General Household Survey 2016. To ensure rural access to healthcare, our HealthNet patient transport system operates at about 230 pickup points across the province. Every year, over 150,000 patients are transported to healthcare facilities through this 90 million rand service. This system is unique to the Western Cape. It exists nowhere else. At the start of this term, we added a school wellness mobile service, which has so far reached over 400,000 learners across 3,000 school visits in the metro and rural districts, picking up often problems that impede learners' access to education. And Speaker, we are the only province to digitize patient records in public health care. Digital records are helping patients to move more efficiently between facilities. We've also set our sights on shortening the waiting period for elective surgery by using electronic waiting lists, which have so far drastically reduced the waiting time on joint and hip replacement services from 8 years to 2 years. It's still a long time, but to reduce it by 3/4 is an extraordinary achievement. All in all, our digital records now cover 54 hospitals, around 300 primary healthcare facilities, and currently host about 13 million patient records spanning more than 25 years. This is a truly wonderful example of how this government is using innovation to solve complex problems that affect people. Speaker, I have reached the end of my final State of the Province address. It has been a privilege, my life's privilege, to serve Western Cape residents as Premier for 2 terms with a team of wonderful colleagues. I have done so under this government slogan, "Better Together," which was far more than a mantra. This government and everyone in it turned that into a reality. Of course, there is always room for improvement, but we are truly better when a capable state delivers on its constitutional mandates and residents, families, communities and individuals take full responsibility for the roles they must play. We are a country with enormous potential, beauty and humanity. We also have many problems, which it will take the whole of society working together to resolve. Let us make the right choices for ourselves and our children. Let us learn the right lessons from the last decade. And remember that it fundamentally matters who we place our trust in to govern. Let us continue to choose the road less travelled and build one nation with one future for all. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Premier. Order. Order, please, members. Order, please. Thank you. In terms of Rule 15 of the Standing Rules, the Premier's address will be placed on the order paper for debate. Members and guests are requested to remain standing in their places while the procession leaves the chamber. However, before we do that, I do wish to apologise on behalf of the institution of Western Cape Provincial Parliament, Prof. Marie, to you and to all our guests for the unsavoury altercation that took place earlier in the sitting. I have undertaken that I will revert to Hansard, I will get the audio, I will get the video, and if action needs to be taken, it will be dealt with. Once again, I apologise for the unsavoury incident. I would like to, at this stage, invite members to a light luncheon in the members' lounge on this floor after the adjournment of the House. Please note that on Tuesday, the 19th of February 2019, the proceedings will commence at 14:15. That concludes the business for the day. The House is adjourned.